Hi, in this lesson, we'll take a look at how to write constructors for subclasses. Previously, we saw how a hierarchy of classes can be used to put common attributes and behaviors in a superclass. This allows us to share and reuse code in any number of subclasses. Over the next few lessons, we're going to take a closer look at how we can create and reuse elements between the superclass and the subclasses. Remember that the superclass looks the same as any other class that we have been using. In this case, we have a constructor that takes two string parameters. We create the subclass by using the keyword extends, followed by the name of the class we wish to inherit. Any time that we create a subclass object, we are also creating a superclass object. Certain attributes and behaviors may only exist or be saved in the superclass, so we need an object for the subclass and an object for any superclasses that may exist. Remember, objects are created either implicitly or explicitly by calling their constructors. Subclasses don't inherit the constructor from the superclass, so they need their own, either explicitly created or a default constructor created by Java. Remember, creating a subclass also creates a superclass, so we need to make sure we are correctly calling the superclass constructor. In Java, we have a special way that we can call the superclass constructor. We use the keyword super on the first line of our subclass constructor, then pass the parameters needed to satisfy the superclass constructor. In this example, the student constructor takes name, birthday, grade, and GPA. The grade and GPA values are set in the student object, but name and birthday get passed to the person class. Using the super keyword, we take the name and birthday from the student class and pass them directly to the person class. Inside the person class, these parameters are used to initialize the object's instance variables. If a subclass doesn't explicitly call a superclass constructor using the keyword super, Java inserts a call to the superclass's noArgument constructor. If a noArgument constructor doesn't exist, then the program will not compile. In other words, one way or another, your superclass needs to be able to correctly create a superclass object. Let's look at a few examples. Remember that we said that the subclass needs to successfully call a superclass constructor. Even if a superclass takes a parameter, the subclass doesn't have to explicitly ask the user for that parameter. In this example, the shape class takes the number of sides as an input. When the rectangle class extends the shape class, it needs to call the shape constructor and pass it the number of sides. Since all rectangles have 4 sides, it is possible to hard-code this value instead of asking the user to send it as a parameter in the rectangle class. Here's another example. When a subclass doesn't have an explicit call to the superconstructor, then the noArgument constructor is used. Let's take a look at how this plays out by looking back at our person-student relationship. Notice that the student subclass doesn't make a call to the superclass constructor. Without this call, Java uses the noArgument constructor in the person class. When the program is executed, we can see that the values are initialized by the noArgument constructor. Instead of having a null value, they are set to not set per the noArgument constructor. In this final example, we are going to look at a case where we might have several levels of inheritance. At the top level, we have a person class that takes name and birthday as inputs. Student extends the person class and adds the grade variable. Notice the student object only stores a grade and the name and birthday get passed to the person object. Finally, we extend the student object to a high school student and add the GPA. A high school student constructor needs to call the student constructor, which in turn will call the person constructor. With this in mind, when creating a high school student, we have to have all the information needed to create all 3 objects. What would come above the person class? When a class doesn't explicitly extend another class, then by default, we are extending the object class. The object class is at the top of the Java class hierarchy and contains several methods that all objects can use, such as the toString method. The object class constructor doesn't take any parameters, so it does not explicitly need to be called. Just like other classes, subclasses need to have a constructor. One thing that is unique about our subclass constructor is that it needs to satisfy the superclass constructor. This is often done with an explicit call to the superclass constructor using the keyword super, and then passing the parameters needed to satisfy the superclass's constructor. Now that you've learned more about subclass constructors, let's get some practice using them in the editor.